Hello, and welcome to My Life in Film 1998. And again, we're continuing the journey of the films I enjoyed growing up, starting to learn and appreciate movies as we go forward. We are going to start having longer lists because I start watching a lot more movies. So this list is a top 15. We start with Urban Legend. When it came to horrors, I really got into the slasher genre. And Urban Legend was one of those, following on after Scream, which followed a group of people who were being picked off by different urban legends, and we had to see how we were going to solve the crime. We have a young Jared Leto in this, and some of the kills are very, very entertaining for what we had. And if you like any urban legends, you'll get to have a few of your favourites pop up along the way. Number 14 is Small Soldiers. While I might well have got into the slasher genre, there was still time for the fun kid movies that I was still enjoying. And this one was no different, following two renegade soldiers fighting out. We have the military people taking on the oddity type characters. They were different people who have been fighting, and they have to join forces with humans to stop the army people from taking over the world. A lot of fun, a lot of references to battles and everything. Great voice cast too, and well, a thoroughly enjoyable movie for the whole family. Number 13 is Snake Eyes. We have another thriller. We have Nicolas Cage try to solve a crime in a boxing arena. It does keep you guessing. We have plenty of twists along the way, and with the fact we have Nicolas Cage and Gary Sinise as your two main leads, I believe it was Gary Sinise anyway, we have a very, very entertaining and interesting thriller that puts everything into a different perspective when you get to see how everyone saw the crime instead of just Nicolas Cage studying a crime. Number 12 is Rounders. When it comes to me, I am a fan of Texas Hold'em poker, and Rounders is one of the best movies out there to show how poker actually happens, where we end up seeing a genius poker player, played by Matt Damon, pushed into returning to the seedy underworld of risky poker by his friend Worm, played by Ed Norton, and they bite off a bit more than they can chew along the way. But it is a lot of fun. There is some more realistic poker happening in this movie compared to a lot of poker scenes in a lot of movies. Number 11 is Halloween H2O. Now, when it came to Halloween, this was actually the first Halloween I saw, which is very strange because my Halloween watch-alongs have been in the most random order. They make zero sense. But for me, this one is one of the best of the sequels. It was a bit of more of a reboot because you brought Jamie Lee Curtis back after being out for 4, 5, and 6. And we also have an absolutely amazing cast. We actually have a young Michelle Williams, LL Cool J, Josh Hartnett, and even an early sequence with Joseph Gordon-Levitt. It's everything you want from a Halloween movie. Michael Myers killing people for fun. Some of the biggest ones I haven't seen include The Thin Red Line. I'm not, again, into the war movies. Rushmore, I'm not the biggest Bill Murray fan, as I've said, and it's just one that's never really clicked into place for me. Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels. Yeah, that one could be looked at as a British gangster movie. Don't like gangster movies, remember this. And Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas it just looks like a stoner movie, and I'm not into drugs, so these seem to have quite reasonable explanations to why I have not seen them. Number 10 is The Truman Show. This is one that I've probably watched some of the most of many of these lists. I love the fact that Jim Carrey still gets to have a bit of fun with his character. He gets to show a bit more of his younger side along the way. And it has a serious tone about how we watch and judge people's lives and try to plan everything. It is one of his best acting performances, and definitely one we should all be trying to watch now. Number 9 is A Bug's Life. This is actually one of my favourite Pixar movies. I love the cast of characters. I know now it's just 7 samurais with bugs, but still, it's a lot of fun. We have all the different bugs who play into their stereotypical types of what you would imagine a bug to be like, and then we have a few that play against them, with the ladybird being like a rough fighter sounding bloke, and you would have thought it would be a nice sweet lady figure, character or voice, and this time it's no big hard nut who wants to have a fight. So that works really well, along with having a great voice cast, which does include David Hyde Pierce, which I will never say no to anything he voices for. So, enjoy Pixar. Number 8 is Enemy of the State. Many a times I've said I like my action movies, but add in the thriller factor, you've got something special here. With Will Smith was still on top of the world at this time, he goes away from his kid-friendly movies, being hunted down by the military, who believe he has something which could expose a major story in politics. He only has one person to trust, and they have every camera in the city hunting for him. So again, very clever thriller that was showing how the government could have been watching everything you were doing. Number 7 is Rush Hour. This was one of the very first times I ever saw Jackie Chan, and now I have gone back and seen a lot of his older stuff. I've seen most of his newer stuff. He's one of my favourite actors, and throwing him as a silent fighter with a fast talking Chris Tucker was a great fun buddy cop movie. We get to see two leads that would not be considered a normal pairing in an American studio movie in the 90s, taking it by storm, hitting all the comedy perfectly. And again, it's a franchise I could easily watch. It's one where, even though there's a few too many jokes, we get to have a serious story going on in the background. Very basic but serious, and they do have excellent chemistry, the two. Number 6 is Blade. One of the first comic book movies that was actually working well was Blade. It may have been a violent vampire movie, but it brought something fresh to the vampire era. We have had sort of dark, we've had gothic, we've had glossy in a bit, but we've never had like a comic book styled one, and this was an excellent way to step into this world. And Wesley Snipes was perfectly cast, no matter what happened with his career and personal life after the Blade franchise, or even later into it. We'll talk Blade Trinity later in the series. But for me, this is just something brand new. It felt bloodier, which you would like to see in a vampire movie at times. A couple that I didn't enjoy, and I'm pretty sure everybody didn't enjoy the first one, and that was the remake of Psycho. We know why it's not liked. Another one was Buffalo 66. I really just didn't get the point in this movie. I saw a high rating and thought this should be good, and by the end of it was like, meh, nothing's fancy here. Number 5 is Dark City. For me, this is one of the more unusual movies. It's one that you really have to pay a lot of attention to. If you miss a little clue, you will be found wondering what happened. There is some narration that does fill in a lot, but it's one that goes in directions you just simply wouldn't imagine it going. A definite watch for all the sci-fi fans out there who want to watch something a little bit different than your space movies or your over-the-top futuristic ones. You can see a lot of inspiration coming from an Inception from this movie. Number 4 is Ronin. One of the most underrated action movies of the 90s, with one of the best, if not the best, car chases of the 90s. We have a very interesting heist con movie, which sees De Niro take the lead role, and of course we have a Sean Bean in here. But that car chase sequence through Europe, a European city, is something different. We've seen a lot of big highway related ones in America, but this one did something fresh, and it felt a lot more realistic, and it's definitely one the action fans out there will be enjoying. Number 3 is Deep Impact. Now, I've used this statement before, I like big dumb disaster movies, and this may not be as dumb as another one on this list, but it is a lot of fun. It's And one thing I think this movie deserves more praise for is it doesn't hold back with the damage. We have one of the most destructive incidents in any disaster movie, and we also have an exceptional cast. This will test how the government would deal with it, rather than it be like, we got like a few days, we got to do it. This one is more cover-ups, could lead to something bigger, and it's a career maker for one person. Another one, it is just another story. So for me, it's one of the more intelligent disaster movies out there. Number 2 is another deep, but it's rising. Now, Stephen Sommers became more famous in 1999 when The Mummy took off, but the movie he made before The Mummy was Deep Rising, which follows a group of sort of mercenaries trying to find a cruise liner, basically just to rob it. And something's gone wrong, and we look into the idea of some form of giant squids, or a squid, has now like taken over the boat or the cruise liner. It's massive, and the crew are just investigating so they could try and make some money from this mission and figure out what's happened so they can escape. It has someone you never really would imagine as a lead when you watch it now, because he's not as famous in Treat Williams. But then you look at the supporting cast of Famke Janssen, Jaimin Honsu's in this movie, Jason Fleming, Cliff Curtis. There's an excellent cast here, and it is definitely one you can enjoy and have a lot of fun with. So definitely, as somebody as a Stephen Sommers fan, this is right up there with The Mummy, just without the praise around it. And number 1 is Armageddon. Was it gonna be anything else from me, the guy who likes big dumb disaster movies? No, it wasn't. This sums up big dumb disaster movies perfectly. We have a group of oil drillers who are assigned to go to space to drill a hole in an asteroid to save the world in 18 days. Yay. This is a movie that has a big budget and somehow is still entertaining as it comes. Bruce Willis is just about on his caring line. Ben Affleck is fresh off of his brilliance in Good Will Hunting and Co. You've got Liv Tyler, you've got Steve Buscemi, Michael Clarke Duncan, an early role, Owen Wilson, an early role, Billy Bob Thornton. It's like an endless cast of brilliance in this movie. Definitely something I've watched more than I should have. One of my most watched movies of all time. So, let me know what your favourite movies of 1998 were in the comments below, and see which ones I should have been checking out to see whether they made the list eventually. But until next time, I'm going to go and think about 1999. Thank you for watching, and goodbye.